My name is Tamar Williams and I'm a storyteller, and that means that I get to travel around and tell stories in lots of schools and museums and festivals, and it's the best job in the world. And today I've got a quick fire story making, creative writing task that you're going to be following along step by step with. So I was trying to think what I would like you to have a go at doing, and then I remembered that a lot of the stories that I read and really enjoyed when I was growing up had some kind of magical object in them. So one of my favourite stories when I was growing up was a book called The Box of Delights, and in that story there's a magical box, and if you click the catch on the front one way it'll make you go really small, and if you click it the other way you can go really, really fast, and you can open up the box and live in this magical world inside. And of course I also read a lot of Harry Potter growing up, and there's loads of magical objects in Harry Potter, from broomsticks to wands to the Philosopher's Stone, which is this magical stone that if you have it then you will be immortal, which means you'll live forever. So today we're going to have a go at creating new stories, original stories with magical objects or objects with some kind of power at the heart of them. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to select our objects, and I've brought some objects along with me and I'm going to show them each to you one at a time, and I'd like you to choose the one that you think is the most interesting, and this is going to be individual for every single one of you. And don't worry, I will go through these objects twice, so I will remind you of them. The first one that I've brought is this. It's a miner's lamp, so that's object number one. I've also got, remember, think about the ones that you think are the most interesting. It's a love spoon. I've got a shell here, so I'll hold it up to the camera and you can see it. I've got this interesting key. Don't know what it opens, I've had it for a very long time. So it's a golden key. I've got a cotton reel, some of you might be interested in that. And I've also got this very old horseshoe. Again, I don't know where this came from. So I'm going to go through those again to remind you of the items. So we've got the miner's lamp here, and we've got the shell, we've got the key, we've got this, the cotton reel, and finally we've got the horseshoe here. All right, so hopefully you've been able to choose which item you think is the most interesting, but I'm going to bring up an image of them on the screen now, and you can just have a look at them really quickly, decide which one you think is the most interesting, and then we will come back and we will start story making. Okay, so now you've chosen your object, I am going to ask you a series of quick fire questions, and I want you to answer as many of them as you can, and just write down the first thing that comes into your mind when I ask the question. You can always go back and edit it afterwards. So I'm going to ask the questions, I'm going to leave a little pause after I've asked each question. If you don't manage to write an answer down in the little pause, and it won't be a very long pause, don't worry, because right at the end of this section I'm going to bring all the questions back up on the screen so you'll be able to answer them in your own time. So, question number one, how old is this object? It's up to you to decide. How old is it? Is it 100 years old? Is it 1,000 years old? It's up to you. Question number two, what three words would you use to describe this object? Three words that come to mind straight away. They could be really simple words or really complicated words. Question number three, where was the object found? Or, who made it and how did they make it? So that's kind of a joined up question there. Where was it found? Who made it? And how did they make it? Next question, I've lost count, don't know where I am now. Who owns the object now? Now, who owns the object is really important because that person might end up being the main character in your story. So think carefully about who owns the object now. And if it's you who owns the object, are you going to be your main character? And how did they get the object? Did they find it lying about? Did a witch give it to them? How did they end up getting it? What's their name? How old are they? And these are the trickier questions, I think. This new person that you've created who owns this object, what are they afraid of? What are they scared of? Now you're sort of plunging into them as a character. What do they enjoy? What do they want most of all in the whole wide world? That's a really important question. You should ask that of all the characters that you ever write about. And finally, what special powers does your object have? If you own the cotton reel, what special powers does it give you? What special powers does it have? I don't know. It's up to you. So remember, I'm going to put those questions back up on the screen now so you can take a pause and write down your answers to them. And if you've written down loads of answers but you want to go through them and edit them and have a bit more of a think about them, now is your chance to do that. Okay, so you've got a character, you've got a magical object, and now you're going to bring them together and you're going to create a story. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to map out what I call the story bones, which means basically what happens in the plot, and then you can fill in all the fun stuff like dialogue and description around those. We're going to do that by creating 3 columns on a big piece of paper. Column 1 is your beginning, 2 is your middle, 3 is your end. You might have done something a bit like this in class before, but humour me. So I'm going to write these down again on the screen afterwards, so don't worry if you can't think about all of this at one go. But your beginning column is where your story starts. And in the beginning, how does your character get hold of their magical object? Who gives it to them? And when they have got their magical object to start with, how do they feel about it? It's got magical powers. Is it going to give them some kind of magical power of their own? Are they going to enjoy playing with it, experimenting with it, having a go at all the different things it can do? So in the beginning of your story, things are probably going to go quite well for your character. Probably they're going to be enjoying themselves. But then we move towards the middle. And in the middle, things start going wrong. It could be that the magical instrument, the magical object is out of control. It's completely out of control. Your character can't control it. They don't know what to do with it. Or maybe somebody tries to steal it. So have a think, what can go wrong for your character in the middle of your story? And they're going to try all they can to get it back or get it under control, but things are going to get worse and worse and worse. The best bits, the middle of the story, is if your character tries a number of different things and it doesn't work. And then as we move just towards the end of your story, your character is going to risk it all. They're going to learn a new skill. They're going to have to extend their powers in some way to be able to control their magical object or maybe get it back from whoever's stolen it. Everything's dreadful until finally they take one final big plunge and they succeed. And they succeed in some way, and the magical object either is restored to them, or maybe in your story, maybe they're going to realise they don't actually want to have it after all. It's a bit too dangerous. So I'm going to write all of these questions and starting points in each of these columns down on the screen, and you're going to have lots of time now. You can pause this video and you can fill in your columns and sketch out your story bones. And after that, come back for one final word. Okay, you've done it. You've sketched out the story bones, you've got a main character, you've got a magical object. Now's your time to write the story. So keep holding that object in your mind and off you go. You're in charge. I can't wait to hear what you come up with.